Who's that, David?
All right, so let's get started. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Adria Arch, and this is the second in a very series of webinars about being empowered as an artist, and mostly about the Boston area because that's where I'm based. And it came out of a feeling that, this information seems so hard to find. And, really, there's a lot of, I think, nervousness about asking people how to do XYZ. And so I just thought, these are things that we can share among ourselves with people who know things. And last time I talked about trying to show your own work in alternative spaces, to not be, kept captive by the gallery scene, that, you can put your work out into the world without having to be part of a gallery. And it's not that hard. And, it is often one of the best things you can do to kind of start a career of showing your work. And tonight, we're talking to Kathryn Geismar and Deb Peeples, who are both Boston area artists who just finished curating a wonderful show at Concord Art and Motherhood As Muse. And I thought that it would be really great to hear their take on, how they did this. It was a very big show with a lot of uh, pretty well-known artists from all over the place. How they got the idea, how they found that space, just to kind of demystify it for everybody. And I think in general we'll talk about, the idea of curating, which I think is a lot more mysterious than it actually is. Um, you can pull together a show with like-minded artists around a theme, and voila, you've curated. Um, but I think I'm going to hand it over right now to Kathryn and Deb to talk a little bit about their experience. And let's see, Kathryn, do you want to get started first and tell us a little bit about your work? So I'm gonna pin you here. Okay,
Okay.
here you go. So
Um, Tell about my work as an
yeah,
artist or
a little bit, yeah,
so hi everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Um, I My work for the past 6 years has been about being a mother artist. And so it's drawing and painting. It is about identity and change. It's about the boundaries between human beings, between self and other, between mother and child, between male and female. My children have been my subjects, but I'm my subject. Um, and Gosh, I don't know what else to
that's
say.
fine. That's fine, yeah. And how did you, how did you get this idea to approach Concord Art, and how did you get this, and then we'll get Deb up here. So, but just let's start with you first a little bit.
Sure. Um, so, Adrian, it actually started with you and your show at Concord Art, your abstraction show. I remember talking with you about it and you saying that basically you curated the show that you wished you could see.
Yeah,
And it really resonated with me. I had curated one show before at the Cambridge Art Association. So I was not a curator by any shakes, but I really wanted to see. Initially, it was a show about identity. I felt like there's a lot of identity politics that I'm aware of, but I wanted to see something that reflected a conversation that I'd been having with my work for a really long time. And so I approached Kate James at Concord Art and said I'd like to do a show about identity. And so there are a couple of takeaways that I think are really important. The first being that any of you can do this. But the other is that being in conversation is really important. And I'd been showing at Concord Art since 2017. Kate knew my work. And so she was receptive to talking with me about this nascent idea. And we had two really lengthy conversations, the first at Concord Art, the second in my studio with my work around us, and talked about what the show could be. And it sort of shifted over time into something that was very much about what my work was exploring. And I wrote up a proposal. I worked hard to kind of articulate what I thought the show could be and what the themes would be. And that went before the board of Concord Art, and then it was approved. So that's how that part came to be. It grew. I feel like two big things are being in relationship and being in conversation. And I also really like Concord Art. I like the space. I could see a show there. I was excited about doing a show there. And I knew that they would mentor me. And I don't have any background really in curatorial experience. So I felt like I wanted some hand holding. I wanted people who would be engaged and involved. But I also didn't want to do it alone. And that kind of brings me to this other conversation.
So you can have the rest of it if you want.
Oops, excuse me. Everybody, can you mute yourselves? Because we are hearing a little bit of the outside noise there. Great, Kathryn, and I just wanted to say right now that give a little bit of background. So I also curated at Concord Art. So if you're not from Boston, there are a few not-for-profit gallery spaces, arts associations that have decent sized galleries. And when I think about curating, those of you in the area can probably, also know which of those are available, and just a matter of seeking it out. But Concord Art is a particularly really nice gallery, a nice big space. And what's really wonderful about Concord Art is that the people on the staff there, and Kate James is the director, I just put her name in the chat, is they give a lot of help to the artist curators. And they've changed over the years to hiring people to curate, and lately I think for quite a while it's been ideas brought to them by members of the Concord Art community or artists who teach there. So I knew this space really well, and I got to know Kate from teaching at Concord Art so many years. And then it just occurred to me, yeah, I would like to curate a show, and this might be a really good place to do it. So it certainly helped that I knew Kate. And I think, again, as we talked about last time, and as many of you know, it is all about relationships. So it's certainly easier to find a place to curate by knowing somebody maybe who knows somebody who knows somebody. But there's also, calls for curating. But at any rate, just to give you a little bit of background on that. Let's go to Deb, and let's hear from you a little bit.
I'd love to have a turn, but I think Kathryn wanted to talk a little bit more about the beginnings of the show.
Yeah.
So I want to turn it back to Kathryn to do a little more.
Okay, let me get her up here.
Well, I felt like there were a few things I just wanted to say as beginning sort of frameworks, and places like Concord Art, Cambridge Artists, like Concord Art also has a members gallery. And if you become a member, then you can be part of a small group show there, which is a way for them to get to know you and your work. I know a bunch of people here have had shows there. And that's a wonderful sort of first step towards a bigger step. So that's just another thing. I wanted to also just say that because Deb and I did this together, it would have been a very different show if Deb had done this or if I had done this alone. And it was right after this was approved that I asked Deb if she would please co-curate this show with me. And I can't stress enough how wonderful that was for the two of us. And that also grows out of relationship and conversation. We've been in a crit group together for 8 years. We know each other's work. We go to art shows together and workshops together and talk about art together. And we really hold each other up. And it feels like that's another very important thing if you're feeling, as I was, intimidated about taking on something. And again, this show didn't start as like a big show. It just started as an idea. So being in relationship again. And then the third thing I just want to say is in proposing this show, I had to develop and write something persuasive about the ideas that would underpin the show. I had to persuade the board of Concord Art that they would want to do this show. And that piece of writing was instrumental in every other part of what happened with the show. So writing about your work really helps to write about things that are beyond your work, reading things about work. But that piece of writing, I think, was also really pivotal.
Yeah, writing about one's work is super important these days. And, there is a way in which we all need to really think about framing our work. And I think, taking an idea, so let me just say, sort of, Kathryn, you've been working with this theme of motherhood in your own work, and then to broaden it out and to see, what it could be. This topic is very interesting and very timely for so many reasons that framing it so that it's a bigger show beyond what you personally do and has a bigger reach and more encompassing, I think is really important. And I think that, it used to be that, you could pull together a show, on a certain technique, like, oh, we're all collage artists or something like that, and that worked for a while. But I think now, if you're serious about curating a show, I think you need to learn how to frame the work in terms of the current, what are the current sort of things and themes going on in the art world and in society and in culture right now. So it's not enough just to say that it's a medium that holds you guys together. It's really important to say, yeah, the theme of motherhood is important because XYZ, all the things. And anyway, so I just wanted to say that to people who are thinking about it, that there really is a way to approach it. Let's see, Deb, I just wanted to get you to introduce yourself a little bit, and just, briefly your background and, what, and then a little bit about your experience with the curating.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Deb Peeples. I live in Cambridge. I'm in my studio right now in Somerville at Joy Street. I paint primarily with encaustic, and even though my work is abstract, I also am engaged in a lot of the same in explorations around a lot of the same themes that Kathryn is. My work focuses a lot on my motherhood, on family, on relationship, on those kind of themes. So it's very much motherhood focused, even though that might not be apparent to the outside viewer. But since Kathryn and I have been friends and in a critique group for years, and her work is figurative, we knew that we were both dealing with a lot of similar themes. So after Kathryn asked me to curate this show with her, we both met with the folks at Concord Art, and they were terrific in setting up a whole structure of steps of things that they expected the curators to be responsible for. And when we met with them, we had a tentative list of artists that we wanted to invite to be in the show. We had a list of about 10 artists that we were thinking of in addition to ourselves. But we were really open to and looking for ideas of other artists whose work we should look at. And we wanted to have a diversity of voices. We wanted to have a diversity of mediums. We didn't want all painting. In fact, we ended up with textile work and sculpture and installation piece and photography and printmaking and painting in many different mediums and collage. And the work wasn't all figurative. So that was very exciting. We also had a wide age range of the artists we invited. We had artists from about, I think the youngest artist was 38 years old to 83 years old. So that covered a broad range of experience and ideas. We didn't want to have all white artists. We really struggled with, we didn't want to have all straight cisgender artists. And we struggled, we didn't end up having all of the diversity that we hoped for in the show. But one thing that was really helpful is when we would talk to an artist, we would ask them to recommend other artists. Or when we talked to an artist of color, we said, do you know other artists of color who are mothers, whose work is focused on their motherhood? And that was not always an easy thing to find, but that was really helpful. And sometimes people would point us to artists and we'd look at their work at their website or on Instagram, and it might not have spoken to us, or it might have been too similar to something else we had, and we just couldn't include everything. But those recommendations were really helpful. So the next step that we took was we sent letters to all of the artists whose work we were interested in. And in some cases, in a few cases, we were looking for a specific piece by that artist that we had seen that we really thought would be a strong piece to have in the show. In other cases, we knew the artist's work focused on their motherhood and we wanted to take a broader look. So we sent a copy of the proposal that Kathryn had written, the statement for the show, and a letter saying we were doing this show and what the ideas were, the dates of the show, perhaps the piece that we were interested in, but we asked if they were interested, we'd like to do a studio visit with them. And most of the studio visits we did were virtual. So they were on Zoom, some were in person. Kathryn had a the operation, so it was easier for both of us to meet with people by Zoom. We also focused mostly on artists in New England, and we did that for a couple of reasons. The biggest reason was shipping and the cost of shipping. And Concord Art was very generous in helping pick up some of the larger pieces of work, but we really had to be mindful of how much we could ask them to do and how much we could ask artists to do. The other thing we did is we had a sort of wish list of artists who we thought would be fantastic to have in the show, one of whom was Kathy Bradford. Kathryn and I both love her work, and we put her on our list, really hoping that maybe Concord would have a relationship and reach out to her, but they said, oh no, just reach out and ask her. So they were very good at prompting us to just reach for what we wanted to reach for. And I think because it was a strong proposal, and Kathryn and I both knew we had not seen a show that was mother artists whose work was about their motherhood. And that was something that we were really interested in seeing and we wanted to see. And it obviously resonated with other people because almost all the artists that we reached out to said yes, they would participate in the show. And we tried to ask some of the high profile artists first. We asked, I won't name names because I don't want to say who was a higher profile than someone else, but that also helped because then in our letter we could say so and so and so and so and so and so have agreed to be in the show. And we thought that would also encourage other artists or entice other artists to agree to be in the show. So that was really the first step. And then we started scheduling studio visits with the artists that we'd reached out to. And actually, I think that was the richest part of the whole experience because we built a new community for ourselves. Some of these artists were people we knew, but many weren't. Many were artists whose work we admired and we wanted our work to be in conversation with, and we were curious about and excited by. And the experience of sharing our work and what we're doing and learning about what those artists were doing was really the greatest benefit, I think, of doing the show.
I would underline that. Yes.
Yeah.
I just wanted to interject and ask you to tell us the timeline, because all this takes a lot of time. So what was it between go
We had
ahead,
a
Kathryn.
very compressed timeline, and that I think it was a saving grace in some ways because we
Yeah.
just had to get it done. But I proposed the show in mid-January, and it was approved in early February or mid-February, and the show opened in October, which meant we had to have all of the work nailed down and how it was going to get to Concord Art and back by June. July? Yeah. So we had just like 4 or 5 months to get this entire show off the ground, which again, if it would have been just one of us, I think that would have been completely overwhelming.
Yeah.
And again, Concord Art was very helpful. So
yeah. And sometimes you do have a really nice long run up. Like it can be, as much as 2 years between a time that one, proposes
People
something
don't
and it
really like
actually
the
happens.
fact that this very obvious from the street number has disappeared and is now at
guys,
a doorway where a fire department might find it
can
hard
we
to see.
mute
I
here?
totally understand this issue of safety.
Oops. Kathryn, I inadvertently muted you, so you can unmute yourself, please. Sorry.
it wasn't me.
Okay, there you go. All right, just going back to mute people, so compare ourselves. So anyway, yes. So sometimes it's a very short lead up, and sometimes you're lucky to have a couple years actually. But I didn't realize it was so short. Mine was about a year and a half, I think, between proposing and then actually happened. So
I think that's more typical.
I think so too. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad I think that there are many reasons to curate a show, Deb, and I think you were really, addressing that right on, because I think for me too, one of the best parts was growing the community of artists for my own self and for the other people that were part of it. Like you are providing a place to grow community, and that's like one of the best reasons to curate, and Kathryn, did you?
It feels like, I mean, for us, for me and for Deb, the experience of being, and Lisa's on this call, Lisa's one of our artists, that, meeting people and having them not just show us their work, but talk about why this show was a good fit for them was so incredibly moving and powerful that, then we ended up making a book because it just felt like the conversation needed to be expanded. And again, we couldn't have done it if it was one of us, but then making this book really helped us continue with our wish to empower women's voices, mothers' voices, because then when the show was hung, we got to take pull quotes from the book so that the artists were speaking about their work in their own voices from in their own words. So everything just sort of, if you follow your instincts, I think really can inform the same ideas. There's like a through line of ideas and everything stemmed from those ideas.
Yeah, and would you say that your own practices have grown because of having done that show, having curated it?
I would say we didn't have a lot of time for our own practices.
Okay.
But that was more the book than the show. The book really took a huge amount of time because we interviewed all the artists and there was a lot of work that went into doing the book. I think it will influence our work. I don't want to speak for Kathryn, but this was definitely a time-consuming endeavor. I do want to say, though, that I also thought some of the richness of the show were that from these conversations and from the work that we chose from each of the artists, we were really able to represent, the show was able to represent so many different aspects of the motherhood experience. And I think that was a very powerful thing, like the vulnerability, the invisible labor, all kinds of work that promoted the discourse. And work about identity, work about feeling seen and heard and understood, and work about just the mundane moments and the mothers who were in between taking care of elderly parents and young children, and trauma that people had with health issues or their birth experiences. So I think that added to a real richness, and including the artist's voices so that that was visible to the viewer was very powerful.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so it's just broadening in so many ways. A lot of work. Yes, it's going to derail you for a while from the studio practice. I mean, that's just a given. But there is a time in your art career where, curating a show just might be something very wonderful to do. And I think that comes, I think it's a terrifying thought for a lot of people, but that's why I wanted to do this little webinar, because I think that it is doable, and the benefits are, just so many benefits from doing something like this. And it doesn't have to be a place as big as Concord Art. It could be a
Right.
much smaller venue. Just for the people who are in the Boston area, I think of Fort Point Channel, the Fort Point Artists Association, that have 2 or 3 at least galleries that are really nice spaces, and they're always looking for proposals from artists. And so, there are places that ask for proposals. Gallery 263 is another one that has the Nave. Yes, thank you, Michelle. People are weighing in with other places. There are many. You may think, oh no, there aren't, but there actually are. And what a good thing to try and do. So let's see. Anything else you guys want to say?
Yeah, I think I just wanted to add that, it seems like we were so ambitious maybe with the show because of who ended up being in it, but it didn't start with ambitions like that. It started with ambitions to really be able to see the ideas. And then I think it was so compelling to us that we could reach out to people like Kathy Bradford, and she would instantly say yes and do paintings for the show and come up and do a panel. Like, I think everyone who's making art has really creative, original ideas, every single one of you. And so any one of you could take any of your ideas and build it like you build a piece of art. Just know that there are parts, and you're going to extend those parts, and they're going to resonate in the world the way your art resonates in the world. It's actually, Adria, your point is really well taken. It's not that different. It just has a different end result.
Yes. Yeah, it's a very creative effort, and yeah, it's definitely a great thing to do if you feel up to doing that. Yeah. I keep saying, it is. It's work, and I think there are people out there that can help you. Like, if you have an idea, you don't have to just sit in it with it in your head, thinking, oh, I can't do this. A lot of people are willing to chat with you about the idea, and they're thrilled to be asked to help. They really are. And I think to the point of asking more famous artists to be part of it, people want to show their work. I think most people are going to say yes, as long as it isn't, too demanding, or just, really, uh-oh, let's make sure we mute ourselves, everybody. But yeah, I think people want to help. They want to see people succeed. All right, should we take some questions? All right, let's, there was a really good question here. Kate asked, can we hear more about what goes into the proposal? Is there any kind of standard format or key items that a gallery would be expecting to see? And by the way, I want to say, if you have a question, please do put it in the chat, and we will answer questions that way. I think it's just easier in general to not have people, there's so many people on this thing, 56 of us here. So it's a lot to go through to actually have people ask questions. So we'll just read them. But yeah, Kathryn, did you want to address that?
I don't know of a format, so maybe there is, and I won't be able to steer you to it. I'd be happy to share the statement with anyone if they write to me. But I basically, the basic sketch of what it was I tried to place the idea in the context of why it would be important, like what's missing in the art world, why I want to see this because I've never seen it before. Then I talked about why it's relevant right now, like why would mothers' voices be important to hear? And then I talked about the different kinds of artists and materials that I would like to invite in and to hear those conversations. So I started with what's missing, then why it shouldn't be missing, and then what could fill that void. That was sort of the basic shape of the argument.
Right.
And then I drew from that to create the statement, which is it's at the beginning of the book, but it's also what Deb and I used in our letter to kind of tell all of the artists we reached out to what our show was about. It was a little academic, but it was, I think it was persuasive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to make a case for why. And I think, people wonder if there is some, when you apply to some, like an open call for proposals, there is, well, they'll tell you what they want, and some are, as Lou says, send us an email with a PDF, with your, the description and then some images. And, others you do it on Submittable or one of those other things. And, then you just fill in the blanks, really. So, that's the format. But, generally it is like a very persuasive artist statement / proposal, that covers those bases, why you want to do it, why you think it's important, how it relates to the world right now, and
Who might be in it? Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I think it really depends on what you're doing and how you're going about this. Deb, did you want to say anything about that? Is there any kind of standard format or key items that a gallery would be expecting to see? Oh, so a gallery. Oh, well, yeah. We're talking about. I think in this context, we're actually talking about not commercial galleries, because I don't think that they're often looking for curators.
Bromfield, I can say,
Yeah.
Bromfield definitely does. Like you can make a proposal to Bromfield. You have to pay to rent that space for that month. What any Bromfield member would pay to rent the space for their shows. But Bromfield is an artist-run gallery in SoWa, and they definitely accept curatorial proposals.
Right, that's great. And then Kingston is another one, and I think Tag, is another one, and that space I know that she rents as well. So yeah, there are places that are for rent. There are places that are free. The galleries at 4 Point Art Association, you do. I think you have to become a member of 4 Point. That's $100 a year. But then,
Adria?
yeah.
Yeah, only one person on the proposal must be
okay,
a
great.
member.
Okay,
So
thanks.
if you know an FPAC person, then, you can pony up with them.
Oh, even better. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Jen. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Let's go to another question here. Let's see.
Actually, and also I should mention that for the gallery at Atlantic Wharf, which is their larger space,
Yeah.
there's actually a $600 curator fee, meaning you get $600.
You get $600. So even better. So yeah, sometimes you get some money for doing this. So, okay, here's a question from Sloat. How did you get the MFA curator to be the moderator of the panel discussion? Good question.
Deb?
Well, the fun part about that is we got her because we asked. And we had two fantastic panels, both curated by authors. And we had Michelle Millar-Fisher from the MFA was the moderator for one panel, and the other was Nicole Grave-Lipson, who wrote the book Mothers and Other Fictional Characters. And again, that was just our wish list. We thought if we could have anyone moderate panels, Michelle Millar Fisher had done the Designing Motherhood show and written that book. And we had heard from people that she was a fabulous moderator, which she was extraordinary. And, we did, I have to say that we were told, oh no, she's going to ask for much too high an honorarium. Concord thought they'd never be able to afford her. And in fact, when we reached out to her, she was absolutely lovely. She never asked for an honorarium. She agreed right away to be the moderator. We had Kathy Bradford and Allison Crony Moses as panelists, and they agreed right away as well on that panel. And Concord did end up giving her a small honorarium, but she hadn't expected that. And I think, again, it was a compelling idea. It was something in her wheelhouse. So we asked the right person who was a match for the subject matter. And we scheduled things around her convenience and availability and made sure that that would work. And it was just fantastic. The other thing I just want to throw in there that's really important is if you're curating a show, I think one thing that worked really well for Kathryn and me is that we have very complementary skills. We share a lot of the same concepts and values, but we have complementary skills. And I think one thing that we worked very hard on was being organized, having really good communication with the artists, making sure that we were hitting all the timelines that Concord wanted us to hit, and being in good communication with Concord. And that all helped things go very smoothly.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, communication is so important. And that's great that, so these folks, the curators, like at various places, the small museums in town and around Boston and some of the bigger ones, you can ask them. And I think people are flattered. They really do want to engage with the community. So I do think that it's not crazy to ask. um, and I've done that for, shows that I've had too, is invite a curator. So what happens, I think, when you invite somebody like that is that it elevates the show to a wider audience, and bringing people in for a discussion makes an opportunity for people to come and see the show again, or if they hadn't seen it before, you're giving opportunities for engagement. And people they really do want to learn, and they do want to be part of it. And I think, honestly, for the curators, it's good for them too, to be in the public eye and to meet the public that will come to the museums that they run as well. So I think it's a win-win. And I don't think that we should be shy or afraid of these people. They're wonderful people.
Yeah.
And it's very likely that they'll say yes.
Well, and again, it sort of felt like Deb and I had done so much work framing the show, and the artists then collaborated with us, and they framed the show by bringing in their work. And then by inviting and trusting these other people to come in and run these panels, they brought their own conversations, their own perspectives. So it was continuing to kind of be open to this idea of other people engaging with these ideas and furthering them.
Absolutely.
And that perspective, I think, was very inviting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Let's see. Where are calls typically found? Do you recommend a one-place listing for many? So yeah, Concord Art doesn't actually advertise that they're looking for proposals. But
I don't think that would happen that easily without being in relationship with them anyway, though.
I agree. Yeah.
So you would know just because you're in relationship.
Right. And but other places absolutely have calls. So
I want to say I'm part of another organization, and we do group shows around New England, and you can reach out if you've been to a show at a space. You can always reach out to that space and ask if they accept proposals.
Yeah.
Because they'll at least answer those questions or tell you if they have a timeline or how to look for for calls on their website, or if they send something out once a year. So if you've seen shows in a space and you're interested in a space, ask the question.
Exactly.
And some places you can just get on their mailing list and they will send you their call. That's true for Gallery 263, I know. So, going around and seeing places that excite you and asking them, do you ever take curatorial calls? Do you ever give curatorial calls? Would you be open to me proposing something? If you like the space and it feels like it's inviting to you, it's worth pursuing that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that it is really good to know what the space is before you propose. But some of the open calls, you may not get to do that. I had a show at Lake George Arts Project in Lake George, New York, and that was an open call, and I did not see the space, but I did see pictures of the space. It was, you never know quite what you're getting in for. So that was interesting. But I think for me, when I find these calls on Instagram, I find the calls on some of the mailing lists like, the Mass Cultural Council has is it a monthly newsletter that's got sent out? So everybody here should be on that. If you're
And also call for entry, the cafe.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Call for entry gives residencies, shows, curatorial calls, everything that's around the country. There are places like for people more in Connecticut and New York, there's the Garrison Center.
Yeah.
That would be a good place to get on their mailing list.
Yes, that's a wonderful space. Right now, Kirkland Art Center in Kirkland, New York, is looking for proposals right now. So that's a little. That involves, if you're living in Boston and you show out there, you have to figure out that you're going to be bringing your work there, if that's okay with you. And a lot of times they aren't going to pay you to help to do that. But sometimes there is a budget. I think there is a budget at Garrison. I don't know about Kirkland. Eli Center for the Contemporary Arts right now also has an open call in Connecticut. I'm writing these down in the chat here. Eli Center for Contemporary Arts. I think that's what it's called. North of Boston is the Cosmos in Gloucester, has listing. It says Boston Art Review. Yep. Mass Culture. I'm going to put Mass Cultural Council newsletter. Yeah, so yes, they're around. And once LexArt is open to proposals from anyone, people say. Yes, so lots of good information coming in the chat. So that's also really good. And I will copy the chat and put it out when I send the recording of this to everybody here. Yeah, Art Complex Museum in Duxbury takes calls for shows. That's a great idea too. Yeah, so they're around. Let's see. Any other questions? Oh, this is a very long, good question. Thank you so much for sharing. How did you choose the initial 10 artists? You knew all of them personally or their work, or did you search for work specifically? And if so, how?
No, they were my wish list they were like my North Star artists.
Yeah,
so
both
people
of ours, I think.
I've looked at for years. But the original ones, the initial proposal was, it was Deb was one of them. And and then it was Deb and I putting our heads together and talking about our North Star artists, like the people who we looked to, who helped shape our ideas, who we admired. We just started with dreaming.
Yeah, I think, this question goes on to ask, did you put a call out there? So that's a lot of work to put a call out. And I think, going back to the wish list and people that who are already working, this is why it's really important to connect with other artists, because people will curate you into a show often if they know you and your work fits so really important to get out of the studio and meet people and do studio visits with each other. Other artists can bring you into other opportunities in a big way. Right. So, okay. Yeah, Luba's work is also about motherhood. So, Luba, you should get in touch with Kathryn and Deb. Is your published book circulating now or available more widely in the future? And did you break even on the book?
Did we
Yep.
what?
Did you break even on the book? Yeah.
Yeah, we're in a second printing.
Oh, fabulous.
Your
And is
second
it,
printing.
how can people get a copy of it?
I can hold it up since I have a copy of it right here. It's called Motherhood As Muse.
That's a great
It's
cover.
a beautiful book.
You can write to either of us.
You can write to either of us. Kathryn's sister is a book designer, and she laid out the book for us, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And it not only does it have the work that was in the exhibit, but it has additional works by each of the 20 artists who were in the show and the interviews with each of the artists. And it's available from either me or Kathryn, and you can pay by check or Venmo, and we will send it to you. And softcover, I feel like I'm on an infomercial.
Yes, you are.
Softcover books are $30. There's a $5 shipping cost. And we have hardcover books for $45 and also a $5 shipping cost. And if you do pay by Venmo, just make sure to give us your mailing address.
Wow,
So
thank you.
It helps also to have a partner who's really good at promotion and does it in a really excellent way. I can say that because obviously I said nothing about the book.
Well, we did really try to promote the show, and I have to say we used Instagram a lot to promote the show. And one of the things that we did was for the 20 days leading up to the show, each day we featured one of the artists who was going to be in the show and their work on Instagram, and also asked them to be collaborators, asked Concord Art to be collaborators on those posts so that it would spread out to their followers as well as just our followers, and grow the audience. And that was very helpful.
I mean, what you're saying here is that this idea blossomed and grew and, just became something so much bigger.
Yeah.
So exciting,
So much, but that was not the intention, right?
Yeah, you didn't start out with that at
No.
all. I think maybe we're thinking, I'll just do a show. But then, the social media and, giving artists that platform to show the people that you have in the show, and, what a perfect way to do that. There's a reason to bring them to light because they're part of the show. And so you're boosting other people's practices. I mean, it's just a generous thing to do. So it just keeps going. You could start a podcast about artists who are mothers.
It's a little bit of a generous thing to do, but we're putting ourselves into the company that we'd like to be in, and that's so it works both ways.
Yes, exactly. I'm just going to put your email addresses into the chat so that people who are interested in buying the book can do that. Guys,
I do want to just say, I know you have a group too, Adria. I don't think any of this would ever have happened if Deb and I weren't part of a group kind of mentorship situation where we felt we could bring our questions, we could learn, we could grow, we could help each other, and it sort of planted the seeds for collaborating on this as well. We had developed ideas over time. We had helped each other develop ideas over time. We had been mentored over time. We didn't just come to this out of the blue in any way. I can't speak highly enough about being part of an art group with mentorship like you do. It just makes all the difference in the world.
It really does. And whether it's, some paid thing, or where it's I belong to Network, NETVVRK, which is really across the world at this point. But it's a place for artists to connect with other artists and provides a lot of information. Absolutely great support and connecting with other artists and getting ideas and seeing people do stuff that you never thought you could do, but then you do it because they've done it and were successful. Yeah. So, right. And another reason underlining, why we all need each other, why we need to know each other and share ideas with each other, because it's not a zero-sum game. You're being generous and putting your stuff out there and connecting with other people. It works both ways. It really does. So you're absolutely right. And somebody was saying, how do you find a crit group? You're in. Do you want to tell a little bit about Crit Lab? Did you want to say anything about that? That's a
Deb, do you want to say something? I know there are other crit labbers here on this call.
I know, I see a few. So we've both been part of the Crit Lab. I've been part of it a little longer than Kathryn. It's led by Patricia Miranda, who is a New York-based artist. She runs the group like a graduate level crit course. Since I originally brought her to Boston to lead groups along with another artist, Martha Chasen Sokol, I guess about 9 years ago. But since the pandemic, she's primarily been running groups on Zoom. So there are artists from all over, and she curates groups. Kathryn and I have been in a duet with her for a couple of years. But the groups are generally 5 to 7 people, I think. And I've just found the experience really pushed my work forward. I think it helps push your work forward. It's helped me look at other people's work and talk about it, whether I like it or not. It's helped me respond to work that I might not have even engaged with before. And I think I've learned how to engage with different types of work more successfully and more meaningfully. But I have just found it really to have helped my practice and my professional practice and my writing about my work and how to situate myself in current conversations in the art world. And it's been enormously helpful to me.
Yeah. Patricia does a lot of mentorship around writing if people want it. So for people who had the writing question, I know I've been in a group with Anne Johnstone here, that can be part of it too, is having someone help you hone a point of view or an argument about your work, a way of talking about your work. It's not easy. We make work that's visual because we probably don't want to talk about it. So it's a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And there isn't, it's a learning curve. All of us is a learning curve. But, I think in general, I think we're all saying, if you have the desire to curate, go for it.
Curate your own damn show.
Yeah. Right. That it's possible and it's fruitful and fulfilling. And you can think of it as a part of your art practice because it really is. Okay, so we're almost ready to stop, but if there's any other questions that people want to put out and on the chat, we would happy to try to answer. What are your plans for your next show?
We're open to ideas. No, we don't. Right now, we're getting back to our studio. It's amazing how bifurcated it felt. Like it really took both of us out of the studio for months. So we're just getting our sea legs back in there, and we'll see what ideas come up.
I think our artists as curators, we don't want to do it all the time. I mean, there are curators who do want to do that all the time, and that's kind of okay, go for that. But as an artist, I think you do want to do it and then take a break. Maybe do it again in a couple of years, maybe not. So
I just want to add that it was such a joy to do it together with Kathryn, and I found it so helpful, and it also helped us just in our lives. Like we have full lives with other things going on, and when one of us had something taking them away, the other one could jump in and manage things or take the lead for a little while. So being able to rely on each other and just spend the time together was just a joy. So it was really lovely to collaborate. And I know that in the beginning, Concord was not very excited about having co-curators. They had to be a little bit convinced.
But we
But
paved the way now.
we did
Yeah.
pave the way. They were very happy with how it worked out.
Mhm.
Well,
I
great.
would like to give kudos to Deb and Kathryn as a participant, an artist
Oh,
participant,
yeah. Hi, Lisa. Yeah.
and say, it was a great experience from working with Kathryn and Deb to meeting the other artists to the book publication. I mean, I think this is like one of the biggest community building things you can do for your art career. And
Yeah.
I just want to thank them. It was great.
It was great having you.
You were terrific.
Mhm.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you so much, you guys. Thank you, Deb, and thank you, Kathryn. Really so appreciate your being willing to share your experience, and congratulations on that really successful show, Motherhood as Muse. And please reach out to both these wonderful artists here. I do have their email in the chat, but I'll put it again when I send everybody recording, or the link to the recording. I'll add that. So if you want to buy a copy of their book, you can do that. And I don't know when I'll be doing another one, but I probably in the next month